We already know that Tesla is the number one electric vehicle maker in the world and soon to be the number one vehicle company in the world and beyond the number one company in the world. Tesla Model Y, Tesla merch, by the way, Tesla Man shirt, etc. at elonbits.com. But the big question is, who is going to be number two? Will it be Lucid with the Lucid Air and the upcoming Project Gravity? Will it be Fisker with the Fisker Ocean? Will it be Rivian with the R1S and the R1T? What's going to be the number two? And in a sense, who's going to be number two? Let's dive into it. Are you ready? Let's go. I'm going to start with Lucid. This is the Lucid Air. This is the company that rose probably earliest of Lucid, Rivian, and Fisker, made its first appearance early, got a lot of press. Those who follow me know I think Lucid has been a fraud since roughly, I've been saying Lucid is a fraud since roughly September of 2020. I maintain that view. In their recent earnings release, they claimed they had $4.1 billion in total liquidity. This is their balance sheet. They've got $900 million in cash left. They've got $2 million in quote short-term investments. The short-term investments fell a little bit compared to the previous quarter. And basically they're claiming that their $1 billion in inventory is liquid. If you can't sell your cars, then your inventory isn't liquid. There was in the earnings call, Sherry House was talking about this being inventory for like parts for building cars. They sold $150 million worth of cars last quarter. How do you have $1 billion in inventory of parts for $150 million in cars that, their inventory, if that's true, then their inventory management is really off, but those parts are still not liquid. You're not gonna be able to sell those for what you paid for them. So there's a whole bunch of issues there. Lucid reported their deliveries. Their deliveries are down. They're claiming they're going to get to 10,000 production this year. They're not claiming 10,000 deliveries. They got a lot of problems with Lucid Motors. I don't see this company being viable. When I say that Lucid is number two, what I mean is Lucid is number two. I don't see the company surviving. If you look at the balance sheet, they've got really $3 billion in cash and short-term investments. They're burning about $1 billion a quarter in cash flow and negative cash flow. We just finished Q1. They should be done by the end of this year. Will the Saudis continue to fund their ongoing debacle? Maybe at some point, maybe the Saudis are going to rip the Band-Aid off and let them go. But fundamentally, this car, the Lucid Air, is not killing it. They're not able to get people to buy the car, even though there's some indications that there's some good technology in the car. Monroe and Associates just are in the middle of a teardown, and they like the rear motor. They seem to think that there's some good stuff in this car. And I like Monroe and Associates. I like Corey. I like Sandy. I think they know what they're talking about. There's some value here, but the vehicle's too heavy. It's too complicated to manufacture. It costs them too much to build it, and they're not able to build it in volume. And then they don't have buyers for it. And they're not even reporting the reservation numbers anymore. And then they have this Project Gravity, this SUV that may be coming at some point. But we're early in 2023, and they don't expect to get in production till late 2024. It means they won't deliver a Project Gravity till 2025. What's the demand for large luxury SUVs? I mean, Tesla, even Tesla, I love Tesla, right? I have a Model X Plaid. Tesla seems to be having trouble selling Model X's. Is there going to be a market for the Lucid Gravity? If it ever gets here, you've got to survive not only the end of this year when you run out of cash, but a whole nother year. You're going to have a big cash burn to get that next factory going. You're not going to be generating revenue from the Lucid Air because you're not able to sell them. So how does this company survive? So I see Lucid as number two. Okay, next, Fisker. Fisker Ocean, they just delivered a couple. I have trouble with Fisker. I'm not sure what to think about Fisker, and I don't think Fisker's going to make it. And I'll tell you a couple of details. Number one, the car is heavy. This vehicle weighs 1,000 pounds more than a Tesla Model Y. The version that will probably sell in reasonable volumes, that's arguably most competitive to Model Y, costs about the same as a Model Y. It's slower, it's heavier, it has comparable range, claimed comparable range, about 340 miles versus 330 miles for a Model Y long range. The cargo capacity is about half or less the cargo capacity of a Model Y. I just don't, and the battery pack, it's a 113 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's 30 kilowatt hours more than the Model Y to get the same range. So it's not very efficient. When you have all that mass, that means you've got more parts. That means you've got more stuff that has to go in. That means it's more expensive to manufacture. They have this other problem that I mean, it's a plus and a minus. The manufacturing is being done by an outside contractor called Magna. That increases your cost. Now, on the one hand, you can kind of see when you look at these other companies, their manufacturing costs are high. Maybe there's some cost advantage in having an outside contractor manufacture for you, but you don't control your product when somebody else manufactures your product, which makes it hard to innovate, hard to update, hard to upgrade, hard to make things better. Tesla's constantly innovating on the product. We'll be talking about Rivian in a minute. Rivian controls their own manufacturing to some extent or to a large extent, and they're able to innovate. Lucid does their own manufacturing. They can innovate. They're not very innovative, but they can innovate. Harder for Fisker to do that. The other thing about Fisker, I was talking about money. Fisker has $652 million in cash. They don't have the short-term investments that Lucid has. They also don't have the inventory hanging over their head, if that's something you can say. So Fisker has 652 million in cash versus Lucid having something like 900 million in cash. Lucid has something like 7 times the market cap of Fisker. To me, at least so far, Fisker is at least not losing a lot of money. I think we're going to find out next quarter, now that they've started deliveries, how badly are they losing money. But at least so far, they're not losing a lot of money yet. Are they going to be losing money? How quickly will they burn their cash? I think they have a cash burn problem as well. Ultimately, can they pull it off? Henrik Fisker was interviewed the other day by Phil LeBeau on CNBS or CNBC. This is Henrik Fisker here. I just don't know. I don't find it super persuasive. I think there's issues with this vehicle, but at this point, I have to give them better prospects than Lucid. I just, even though I think the car's too heavy, I think their manufacturing model's off. I think, Fisker's history is sort of up and down. But with all that said, I think they have a better chance at surviving than Lucid. There's a question though, how are they going to get additional capital to survive when they only have $650 million in cash? If you're going to produce a vehicle in such high volume, you have to have cash to support the vehicle. You have to have cash to support operations. They don't have cash yet. So are they going to be able to raise money? Their market cap is something like $2 billion. What kind of investment can you get when your market cap's only $2 billion to get your cash up? You really have to start selling cars in volume. Can you really produce cars in volume and sell them profitably at this stage? And if the initial vehicles they're going to sell are going to be like $20,000 more, I think it's $14,000 more than a Model Y. I don't know who's buying that. I don't see you getting a lot of buyers for that. We'll see if they're able to convert that to sales. We'll see how it goes. But if I was buying a vehicle in that market, I'd be buying a Model Y before I'd be buying a Fisker. I don't see the attraction of buying Fisker over Model Y. So, better shot than Lucid, but not great. Next, we've got the Rivian R1S, the Rivian R1T. Also, let's not forget the Rivian van, which they have a contract with Amazon to sell in high volume. And there's a big contrast here. Rivian has a big pile of cash. They have almost $12 billion in cash. They're not claiming their inventory as liquidity. Well, they're burning cash fast. They claim they're going to get to positive gross profit next year. Now, this cash pile at their burn rate should last them through 2024. Hopefully, they're going to get their cash burn rate down so that this cash pile lasts them further than that. Now the cash pile is slightly lower than last quarter, but that's partly because they borrowed some money. They're still working on having adequate financing. I think they said they actually have additional capital lined up to borrow another $2 billion or something like that. So they should have sufficient cash to carry them into 2025, assuming they don't get their burn rate down. My hunch is they will get their burn rate down. Their deliveries and production fell off compared to the previous quarter. I thought RJ Scaringe did a good job of explaining that's because they stopped producing the van for a period of time and they changed over the van to a new motor and a new battery. And this reduces their costs, so they're able to reduce their cash burn long term because they're able to sell the vans at either less of a loss or maybe a potential profit. And the same thing will apply to the R1 line, that they're going to start introducing that motor and maybe that battery pack on the R1 line. He was interviewed on CNBS by Phil LeBeau this morning or yesterday, and they've got their average selling price going up, which is a positive sign. Lucid's average selling price plummeted from like 140 down to 105 on the Lucid Air. They're just really struggling to get by. So my gut hunch is that Rivian is best positioned to be number 2. I'm leaving out BYD, the legacy automakers in this discussion. I'm generally talking about American startups. Who has the most potential? I think Rivian has the most potential to survive. I'm not saying there aren't holes in the story. There's this question. Okay, you've got a plan. Now, can you execute on the plan? You say you're going to get to positive gross profit by the end of 2024. Can you actually make that work? Can you produce the R1 platform at scale and get your costs down so that you can sell the cars for more than it cost you to build them? Now, positive gross profit doesn't mean positive net profit, doesn't mean positive cash flow. They may still be losing money, they may still be burning cash, but the goal is to get to 2025 where they're making more money, in 2026 when they're supposed to have their next platform, the R2 platform, coming out. I still think it's a huge challenge. Number two may not mean a whole lot. By 2026, Tesla's going to be delivering their next generation vehicle in much higher volume. That's why I think Tesla's number one. Check out the Tesla Man t-shirt at elonbits.com, the Tesla stainless steel water bottle and the Elon stainless steel water bottle. Lots of merch at elonbits.com. Please consider supporting me on the Locals platform, on Patreon, as a YouTube channel member, or as a Twitter subscriber. Supporters get a discount code for the merch. Save you a little bit of money. I love the merch. This is my favorite t-shirt. I love this water bottle. I use it all the time. Please check out my other videos. Like this video, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.